Hello, my name is Aidan Hennessey, and today I'll be talking about my study that focuses on traffic analysis in the city of Watertown. So what am I researching and why? So I will be studying, I will be doing a cluster analysis on the traffic incidents that occur inside of Watertown, New York. And the research question I'm really getting to are what are the most dangerous streets and intersections in Watertown in terms of clusters of traffic incidents, right? Okay. Now, we will be defining dangerous as the density of traffic incidents, and we'll be studying that through point density, right, and using cluster analysis. So why did I pick this study? I think Watertown is a very interesting case study because it is having similar demographic and geographic shifts that are occurring in a lot of countries, or a lot of cities across America, where we are more and more becoming an automotive city, and it should be studied. We've also had a lot of renovations recently that have changed our streets, and I would like these redesigning movements, these redesigning efforts to be as effective as possible. And I think this should help us determine where needs to be redesigned and worked on and where shouldn't be. Or it would at least be a helpful tool in determining that. Yep, and again, it's my hometown, so I want it to be as safe as possible to drive in. Okay, let's talk about some related work. Some other studies that utilize point density in their work. First, I would like to talk about a study that I think is very similar to mine. What this study did is it found the density of access points to a highway and correlated that to the number of traffic accidents, right? So this utilizes point density. The results are also focused on transportation, and it focuses on traffic incidents. So those are all things that are very similar to my project. This paper, however, was a synthesis of many projects, but I think all of those projects were very similar. It also utilized an adjustment for traffic volume. So my study doesn't take into effect that some streets are more popular than others. I think my study certainly has a place because when we're redesigning streets, we want to put the most effort into the streets that are traveled the most or have the most incidents, irrelevant of how many folks travel on them, just to maximize the safety. But I think both studies certainly have their place and their usefulness. And they don't do an analysis over time. My study will study 2 years of traffic incidents and compare those two data sets and use that to make sure that we don't have any outstanding data. And again, mapping access points to the data, to the point data, not the incidents. So what this uses is it's correlating a feature with a certain incident, aka access points, and we don't do that. And I think that would be a really interesting thing to do, is to maybe correlate some of the features around some of the hot spots in terms of incidents that we have in Watertown. That might be an interesting expansion. And I'll discuss that later in the discussion and further the discussion and comment section of the presentation. Here was another study that focused on LiDAR technology in agriculture. This, again, also utilized point density and performed a study over time, but again, it was focused more towards agriculture. Mine is more focused towards more focused on transportation, And this, their study is taking the density of measurements, not like the measurement of occurrences. And I think that makes them very, very significantly different. All right, so let's talk about my methods, what I'll be using in my study in order to come up with my results. I'll be using point density analysis in order to implicate hotspots for traffic incidents in Watertown. And I'll also be using directional distribution to confirm that my two sets of data are similar to one another. So that way I'm comparing apples to apples as opposed to comparing 2 years that are maybe very different in terms of their incidence and their distribution. So I think that's just a good way to verify that my data is comparable. So what did I end up finding? Okay, so I'm just going to take you through the steps I went through in ArcMap to create the maps. So the first thing I did is I took all of the traffic incidents. I took all of the traffic incidents that occurred in Watertown and put them on a map. And then, and this is the result of that map. We really can't make too many broad generalizations because you can't really see specific points of data in specific clusters. Maybe points are overlaying one another. So we still need to do the point density analysis to really see the clusters. Then what I did is I took the 2 years and put them on separate maps. That way we could do the analysis apart from one another. Again, looking at both of them, you can't really do the cluster analysis by eye. We're going to need the ArcMap tools to do so. One problem I should state is that I didn't get a full year of 2018's data, and I do have a full year of 2019's data. So that might be where some inaccuracies might lie, but I think the results are still very good, right? And then I just did the directional distribution of the 2 years to confirm that they're very similar. You can sort of see the white outline, but it's mostly hidden under the black outline because just how similar the data distributions were. And this just confirms to me how these data sets are comparable, right? We don't have 1 year in which they were doing work on one side of town and maybe another year where they're doing work on another side of town, and that would throw off the distribution, but no, they're very similar, so I think this enforces the integrity of my study. Okay, so here is the heat map of the 2019 incidents, right? This is, again, a full year. We can see 3 hot zones. We can see right here in our downtown, that is our primary hot zone. And if I were to take a picture, you'd know right away exactly why. It's got intersections on intersections. I believe at one point it's a 5-way intersection, which is a huge hassle. We can also see here we get into these higher classifications. Oh, sorry, just went forward a slide. And out along Route 3, right? So I believe this is Route 3. This is State Street, and I believe there's a weird little Route 12 distinction somewhere along here. But yeah, and you can see just along this whole corridor might be a problem area as we look at further analysis. Okay, this is the 2018 year, right? I told you we had less data, so there's going to be a little less clustering, but you can still see exactly the same problem areas as we did before, here, here, and here. Again, this just indicates that maybe these should be places where we focus our effort on redesign. And then this is all of the data combined, right? And both years combined, as well as a little bit of 2020 data, we still have the exact same hotspots we did before. And again, I'm defining hotspot as when it crosses into this higher threshold we can see here on the legend. Yeah. And now we can just compare all 3 maps here on this slide. Again, you can see this corridor, the state route, Route 3, and I believe out here it becomes Route 12. But yep. The public square, State Route 3, these are all problem areas that I feel could really use the redesign effort, right? And this just shows that across all 3 studies, across all 3 years, and all of the years together, the same problem areas emerge, right? So this is just going over what exactly all of these maps have in common. We see clustering along Route 3 and State Street. The hottest zone on the map is in our public square, specifically the intersection of Route 3, Mill Street, and Arsenal Street. So those are my conclusions that perchance we should focus redesign efforts on Route 3, Mill Street, and Arsenal Street, and the most dangerous streets and intersections would be Route 3, State Street, Mill Street, and the intersection of Route 3, Mill Street, and Arsenal Street, right? So discussion and conclusion. What are some things I took from the other? I thought about my own study that I apologize. I broke my discussion into two discussion and conclusions into two categories: internal reflection and external reflection. So internal reflections are things that I think could have been done differently in my study to improve the integrity or the results. I think I should have given different incidents different weights depending on what type of incident they were, right? So for right now, the incidents are weighted equally whether or not it's a speeding ticket or maybe even an incident resulting in an injury. And so maybe I should solve for that by putting in a weight variable when I calculate the density. So that's one thing I could do. Alternatively, and also to improve the integrity, I also thought I could normalize my data for traffic density and incident density. Again, that just means maybe equalizing depending on how popular a road is to take at a given time. That would help us, I think, most efficiently determine where needs the most redesigning efforts, right? And then the external reflection. So what did I look at the other papers and what do I think other people might say about my study that would improve it? So I thought to that first study, which compared access points to incident data, right? To incident points. And I thought that maybe our studies are related, right? Because along Route 3 and again State Street, there's a lot of access points from other routes, from parking lots, from driveways, and a lot of people trying to get around very hastily. So I think those studies could be tied together in some way or correlated. Alternatively, I think that it might be interesting to see me correlate my hotspots and my data to different geographic features. Again, things like stoplights or stop signs or parking lots and those sorts of features. And see if those are correlated maybe to incident frequency. And that is the end of my slideshow. Thank you so much, and have an excellent day.